Hi, what's going on, y'all? I got insomnia, so I'm gonna be recording my predictions for UFC Fight Night. Steve Garcia versus David Onama. This is a banger fight card that everybody has been waiting for. I'm gonna give all my predictions, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event. And we're gonna start off with Talita Alencar versus Ariane Carnelossi. I'm gonna go with Talita Alencar in this one. Carnelossi, she hasn't really impressed me in her career. She went to a split DQ win with Viera Rodriguez, where she was kind of low key losing the fight, and I don't think she's really had a good track record even before then. Talita Alencar, do I think she's good? No, she lost to Stephanie Luciano, but from what I've seen, she can take opponents down, whereas Ariane Carnelossi has repeatedly shown a weakness for getting taken down. And plus, Carnelossi, she's not that active, which is another reason for me to take Kalita Alencar in this situation. Will this be a 50-50 bout at the end of the day? Yes. Would I be surprised if Ariane Carnelossi somehow pulls off the upset? No. But I'm just gonna base this off the fact that I've seen Ariane Carnelossi get repeatedly taken down by Lupi Godinez, or like any other fucking strawweight that she hasn't beat. So I'm gonna go with Talita and Alencar to win this fight using her grappling and just getting it done 29-28 decision. All right, now up next we got Rowe versus Ho Suk Hyun. If Seokhyeon loses this fight, I may consider deleting this channel. I might, because I'm gonna go with Seokhyeon to get some ground and pound TKO shit. Alright. Rowe, I know he's coming off that good win against Ange Lusa, I believe. Let me just check to make sure it was Ange Lusa. Yes, it was Angelusa. And I understand that Rowe, he was looked at as someone who could potentially make it into the rankings at one point in his UFC career, but he's kind of shown me a couple of things. First off, he's not that good when it comes to clinching. Second off, he doesn't have KO power. I understand that he KO'd Angelusa, but it was kind of based on the fact that Angelusa gassed himself out after beating the crap out of Rowe. Rowe doesn't really have any what do you call threats for Seokhyun Ko to worry about. Can I be worried if this fight were to be prolonged? Yes, but at the same time, I don't believe that Seokhyun Ko is gonna really play along with Rowe's range game, right? Like I think a lot of people have been able to figure it out, especially because Rowe doesn't really fight all that aggressively. Now, Kosakyun, he beat Oban Elliott. Right? He beat Oban Elliott, who was looked at as someone who could potentially get into the rankings, and he beat him pretty dominantly via just ragdolling him 30-27, arguably 30-26. And I think Kosakyun is one of the more underrated fighters on this roster. And I also believe that Rowe is a step down in competition compared to Oban Elliott. I don't know why the UFC even match this fight in the first place. Like this guy arguably beat someone who could make it into the rankings. And here is Kosakian fighting someone way below that in Phil Rowe. I don't know. Like hopefully if Kosakian dusts Phil Rowe up, right, we can get a ranked opponent. Like I think there are a lot of great matches for Kosakian as he goes up the rankings. Who I think he's gonna be like top five depends. It really depends, but I'm just gonna say that Kosakian wins this fight. I think by ground and pound TKO. I know Kosakian has some nasty ground and pound, although he hasn't got a finish yet in the UFC. He does have nasty ground and pound, and I don't think Phil Rowe has the ability to scramble back up to his feet over the course of 3 rounds. Uh, I'm gonna say that Kosakian gets it done by the second round, and then we can look for a top 15 opponent in the welterweight division from there. All right, now up next we got Elise Ardelean versus Montserrat Ruiz. I'm gonna go with Elise Ardelean on this one. Montserrat Ruiz has been getting KO'd for way too much. I think she got KO'd in her last three fights consecutively. And if you're getting KO'd in your last three fights consecutively, it's kind of tough to really pick you. Now, Elise Ardelean, is she all that amazing? No, not really. Most of her fights are pretty boring, except for her last one against, I think it was Ryan Dos Santos. I think so. I'm not gonna check, but anyways, Elise Ardelean, I think she's the slicker striker. For once, I do think she might be able to TKO Montserrat Ruiz just because of how often Ruiz has been getting finished throughout her UFC career. I don't believe in Ruiz's chin. Like, you can't be getting three KO three times in a row in your last three fights in women's strawweight. Like, that's nearly impossible. That's what I'll say. So yeah, Elise Ardeline, I'll pick her to get the job done. Maybe she'll even knock out Montserrat Ruiz. I don't believe in it though, because Elise Ardeline doesn't really have that KO power, but maybe it's enough to put out Montserrat Ruiz, who has been repeatedly KO'd throughout her UFC career. All right, now up next we got Ketlen Viera versus Norma Dumont. I'm gonna go with Norma Dumont on this one. Now, I don't understand why this isn't on the main card. Right, this is arguably a title eliminator bout for the women's bantamweight belt, and I don't know. It's very weird that this is on the prelims. Meanwhile, we have Themba Gorimbo versus Jeremiah Wells, which we'll talk about later, as like the feature fight of this card's on this main card. But anyways, though, I'm gonna go with Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont, I think, is just a more athletic fighter. She has a clear advantage on the feet. I think she's the slicker striker. She knows how to keep distance. I don't believe that Ketlen Vieira is just gonna be able to ragdoll her like what she did to Macy Chasson. At one point I did think that Macy Chasson was a legitimate prospect, but that's aged horribly. And in hindsight, the fact that Ketlen Vieira didn't finish Macy Chasson is kind of concerning. I'm gonna go with Norma Dumont. She's just gonna be able to run laps around Ketlen Vieira, picking her apart, similar to what Natalia Silva does, which you guys don't know at flyweight. But I think there's gonna be a lot more damaging shots. Like in her last fight with Irene Aldana, she literally ran circles around her, avoiding all the power shots. Norma Dumont is the more athletic fighter, more in her prime, and she's quite frankly, I just think she has more talent. And I don't believe that Ketlen Vieira all of a sudden has this elite level wrestling game where she could just ragdoll nearly everybody at will. All right, there's a reason most of her fights go to a decision. So I'm gonna pick Norma Dumont to beat Ketlen Vieira. I just picking her apart on the feet. All right, now up next we got Donte Johnson versus Sedriques Dumas. Now I could argue that Sedriques Dumas could win because Donte Johnson originally came from the Dana White Contender Series as a heavyweight, but at the same time, I just cannot pick Sedriques Dumas. Donte Johnson, uh, do I think he's good? It's hard to say. He fought a fat blob and knocked him out in like 20 seconds. I don't know how that will translate against someone who's in the UFC middleweight division. But considering this is Cedric Dumas, who doesn't really have that much finishing potential, his only path to victory is just holding guys up against the fence. So I think Dante Johnson's gonna have a significant size advantage here. Also, the fact Sedriques Dumas, he spends more time getting arrested than actually training. Like, it's hard to really crush Sedriques Dumas whenever a fight comes up, unless he's fighting some complete scrub like Dennis Tululin. So I'm gonna assume that Dante Johnson isn't a complete scrub, and I'm gonna say that he beats Sedriques Dumas by KO within the first two rounds. All right, now up next we got Timmy Cuamba versus ChangHo Lee. Yeah, I'm gonna go with ChangHo Lee on this one. Yeah, I'm not just saying this because he's Korean, but I just don't believe that Timmy Cuamba should be at bantamweight. I don't know why he's at bantamweight. Like seriously, like this guy, he struggles to cut to featherweight. He fights at lightweight on short notice. Why is he all of a sudden moving down to bantamweight? I don't. I don't understand that. But anyways, though, yeah, ChangHo, I think he'll get the job done using his Marab like cardio and his wrestling. Like this guy is basically the Korean version of Marab Dvalishvili. And no, I'm not just saying that to glaze him. Watch his last fight with Cortavius Romeus, who, to be fair, isn't the best level of competition, but still, just look at the way he beat the crap out of Cortavius Romeus. Whereas Timmy Cuamba, yes, he's coming off that win against that Mexican Romero dude. But even before then, I wasn't really too impressed. You know, he had like a competitive, fun scrap with Balaji Oki. He then lost to Lucas Almeida, which isn't a good look. I don't see any sort of exceptional grappling defense where Timmy Kwamba can be able to stop Chang-O Lee from wrestling over the course of 3 rounds. On the feet, like, is the flying knee open? Yeah, but other than that, I don't really believe that Timmy Kwamba is going to be able to implement much. Like, can't, there is a chance he can just use his size and just walk down Chang Li by just throwing straight punches and the knees up the middle in case Chang Li shoots a takedown. But it's at bantamweight. I don't think Timmy Kwamba's really fought someone with lighter man skill like Chang Li. So Chang Li, I'm gonna pick him. Um, Ground and pound TKO round three. All right. He kind of builds into the fight, and as the fight progresses, his ground and pound becomes more vicious, and his positional grappling is honestly one of the best outside of the unranked sections of the bantamweight division. So I'm gonna go with Chang Li to win this fight by round three ground and pound TKO. All right, now up next we got Billy Elekana versus Kevin Christian. I'm gonna go with Billy on the Kana on this one. And yes, I don't know who Kevin Christian is. Like, I don't think anybody who's watching this video knows who Kevin Christian is. And I don't really like to use regional tape to predict fights because, especially if you're making your debut, because regional MMA doesn't really translate well into the UFC unless you're like some hyped up prospect who I gotta know, like, in order to like predict the fight. Like, no, like Kevin Christian, I think, is coming in on a short notice. I don't think he even came through the Dana White Contender Series. Billy Elekana, do I think he's good? Not really. But at the same time, he has been able to beat Ebo Aslan. Uh, he beat some other scrub. And then, like, he had a competitive fight with Bogdan Gutkov on short notice. So I'm just gonna pick Billy Alakana, kind of similar to what his Ebo Aslan fight was. Just fucking range kickboxing for 3 rounds. If he can implement some sort of grappling, he might. But it's gonna be a pretty shit fight. All right, hopefully it isn't, but that's what I'm predicting. Boring decision win for Billy Alakana. So on the UFC website, it says Alan Nascimento versus Rafael Estevam, but turns out Rafael Estevam pulled out. I'm not exactly sure why, but Cody Durden is stepping in on short notice. I'm gonna go with Alan Nascimento on this one. Like Cody Durden just not had a good patch throughout his career for the last couple of fights. He got KO'd by Jose Ochoa. He got brutally destroyed by Joshua Van. He won against Matt Schnell, but in hindsight, that's Matt Schnell. Um, he got he got knocked out brutally by Bruno Silva as well. All right. Alan Nascimento, like it's kind of hard though, because I don't know how well he'll do on the feet. But you gotta need some pop in order to beat Cody Durden. All right. It's kind of hard to beat Cody Durden through wrestling. Right? Like you gotta actually have some good wrestling, which Alan Nascimento does, but I don't know how good it is. But I'm just gonna base it off the momentum of Alan Nascimento. Like he beat Jafel Fillo. I think Jafel Fillo is arguably similar level, if not slightly better than Cody Durden at this stage of his career. Alan Nascimento is his takedowns are really solid. Will he get takedowns on Cody Durden? Hard to say, but it is Cody Durden coming in on short notice, so it might be easier. Alan Nascimento also like he's not bad on the feet, and Cody Durden it's not like he's got some exceptional pop. I think Alan Nascimento will be able to win the fight as the fight progresses. And the thing is, Cody Durden, he's always known as a guy who kind of does well in the early rounds, but then like people kind of figure him out as the fight progresses. I'm gonna go with Allan Nascimento to kind of figure out what Cody Durden does well and either win by decision or put him away with the submission in the third round. Okay, now moving on, we got Charles Radtke versus Daniel Frunza. Say it again, Radtke. Say it again, brother. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Charles Radtke on this one because it's Daniel Frunza. Like he got TKO'd by Reese McKee. I think that's enough reason. Like Charles Radtke, yes, he got KO'd by Mike Mallett, and yes, Mike Mallett is kind of mid, but at the same time, Charles Radtke is very good at can crushing, and I think Daniel Frunza is a can. Charles Radtke also he's very vicious. Is there weaknesses in his game? Like, yes, he can get checked hook, check left hooked. How good is his chin considering Charles Radtke just got knocked out like 5 months ago? It's questionable, but I don't think Daniel Frunze is really going to be all that active. Like he's strong, he's powerful, he can hit with a lot of pop, but he's not that technical. I think Charles Radtke is just going to be the more aggressive fighter throughout this fight, and I think the pressure of Charles Radtke is going to break Daniel Frunze as the fight progresses. So I'm going to go with Charles Radtke by TKO within the first 2 rounds. All right, now moving on, we got Isaac Dulgarian versus Yadier del Valle. I'm gonna go with Isaac Dulgarian on this one. Like, I think a lot of people are underestimating Isaac Dulgarian. Like, he's a very good wrestler. Like, straight up, he's a very good wrestler, with a very good submission game on top of it. I understand he lost to Christian Rodriguez, but that's what Christian Rodriguez does. Outside of that, though, he's put away everyone else within the first 2 rounds via just submission. And I think that's pretty impressive, especially the Francis Marshall fight, where he just ragdolled Francis Marshall in the first round. That's kind of aging well. Now, Yadier Del Valle. He has a lot of experience, more experience than Isaac Dulgarian, but he hasn't fought that much in the UFC. He did beat Connor Matthews, but that's Connor Matthews. I think anybody can look great against Connor Matthews. Uh, it's kind of hard to really trust Yadier Del Valle because although he has a lot of fights, a lot of those fights have been going to iffy decisions, especially during his Dana White Contender Series fight. Like I was not too impressed with either of the guys. Yadier Del Valle, like there is a chance that he could outbox Isaac Dulgarian on the feet over the course of 3 rounds, but I don't know. I think yeah, Isaac Dulgarian's gonna be able to implement his grappling game because yeah, Dear Del Valle, I think he likes to play guard a little bit too much. There is that key element, and as the fight progresses, I do believe that Yadier Del Valle, like I don't think he's been tested by someone who can really just fucking put his nose to the grindstone like Isaac Dulgarian, and not like this is kind of an iffy pick. Like I can totally see idea of Del Valle winning this, but I just think that Isaac Dulgarian has the style to beat him, and that's what I'm gonna base this on, considering this is like top 30, 35-ish in the featherweight rankings. I think that's reasonable. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Isaac Dulgarian to win this, and I think he's gonna be back on track to potentially make it into the rankings in the future. All right, now moving on, we got to the feature fight: Jeremiah Wells versus Themba Garimbo. Like, how is this on the main card? Like, neither of these guys are near ranked caliber. Like, Themba Garimbo got cooked by Vicente Luque, and yes, Vicente Luque is good, but we're talking about 2024/2025 Vicente Luque. Like, you can't be getting knocked out in the first round by Vicente Luque in 2024. In 2025. Like that's not a good look. Whereas Jeremiah Wells, you lost to Max Griffin. Yeah, that's not good either. But I'm just gonna go with Themba Garimbo. Like I don't like picking Themba Garimbo. I don't think he's that good. Like he outside of just being able to hold people up against the cage, he hasn't really shown that much in his game. Like he got some random KO over the scrub. But outside of that, like I've never been too impressed with Themba Garimbo. Uh I think Jeremiah Wells though, like he has repeatedly shown some weaknesses, especially in his ability to hustle whenever there's grappling involved. Like, yeah, can he latch up a submission here and there? Yes, but that's against complete scrubs like Blood Diamond. And outside of that, like he's just been getting taken down. His striking's also not that crisp. Like, if you're getting outstruck by Max Griffin, like I don't really rate Jeremiah Wells all too highly. So I'm gonna go with Themba Garibo to kind of bore us by going to a 29-28 decision where he's just holding Jeremiah Wells up against the cage. The UFC commentary team will probably glaze him. And then next thing you know, like we're talking about Themba Garibo as a new upcoming prospect again, even though there's no reason to consider that. All right, now moving on, we got Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Ante Dalia. This is straightforward. I'm gonna go with Ante Dalia on this one. Like Waldo Cortez Acosta is a fat sack of shit. Although he's number 6 in the UFC heavyweight division, it's a miracle that he's even in the number 6 spot in the heavyweight division. I will say though he does have a durable chin, but is it just Pavlovich being passive and timid? Or does Waldo Cortez actually have a great chin? It's hard to say concerning how Pavlovich has been looking throughout the recent fights of his career. Waldo Cortez Acosta, I will say he's fast. He has some hands, but is he faster than Tom Aspinall? No. I think Tom Aspinall is just a cleaner version of Waldo Cortez Acosta overall in terms of athleticism, technique, and just being able to not look like a fat blob. Um, I just don't want Waldo Cortez Acosta to win. Like his best win, I think, is against Ryan Spann, who I don't rate at all. Like I clearly saw Waldo Cortez Acosta lose the fight to Sergey Spivak. And Ante Dalia, like there was a lot of questions about him, like how good is his cardio, like what does his grappling look like. But at the end of the day, Ante Dalia is not a fat sack of shit. Ante Dalia is actually built for the heavyweight division. He knocked out Marcin Tybura in the first round. I can see Waldo Cortez Acosta potentially losing to Marcin Tybura. So I'm gonna go with Ante Dalia to beat Waldo Cortez Acosta in the first or second round by KO. And then we can potentially move Ante Dalia up the rankings of the heavyweight division. Moving on to the main card, we got Steve Garcia versus David Onama. I think I'm gonna go with the common opinion here. I'm gonna go with Steve Garcia on this one. I have no idea how David Onama is even in the rankings at this point. Like, realistically, do I believe that David Onama is an elite level featherweight contender? No. Are there chances for David Onama to win this fight? Yes, but if he's going to need to tire out Steve Garcia. He's going to need to heavily implement a wrestling game, which David Onama has recently developed. I don't think David Onama's wrestling is all that good. I think the only guys he's been able to implement it against are people like Giga Chikadze who can't stuff a takedown for shit. And he does get cracked a lot early in his fights. And Steve Garcia is one of the nastiest finishers in the featherweight division. Like, can he look sloppy as the fight progresses? Yes, but that's what Steve Garcia typically does in the first few rounds. And I think Steve Garcia is just going to put away David Onama by just pouring it out on him. And then David Onama, he's gonna try to fight back, but then ultimately get cracked. And then Steve Garcia, he smells blood. He knows how to finish a fight when he has you hurt. I'm gonna go with Steve Garcia by round 2 TKO. It could be the first round, but I could maybe David Onama does better than I think. But I just don't see David Onama getting past the second and third round where he can like take Steve Garcia to deep waters. And it's not like David Onama's really been tested in the cardio as well. Like how does he look in rounds 4 and 5? We've never seen either of these guys fight in rounds 4 or 5. Whereas I've seen Steve Garcia put away nearly everybody on the come up. And for David Onama, however, like he's been hit a lot. Like the Mexican Romero dude, like he was able to crack him with some good shots and nearly win the fight in the first round. Like there's a lot of signs in David Onama's career that I don't like. Also, the fact that when Nate the Train Landwehr knocked David Onama out, I just don't trust David Onama's chin or his defense to pull him through. So I'm gonna go with Steve Garcia to win this fight by round 2 TKO. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can get this channel monetized. Otherwise, though, leave a comment down below what you guys think about this once in a lifetime Apex card. I'm so happy to be back in the Apex, as Joe Rogan would say, my favorite. But yeah, leave comments down below about how shit the Apex is. But otherwise, though, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.